Still poor, still pathetic, still nothing. Exactly why I divorced you, you barren, worthless woman. A billionaire ex-husband just deliberately splashed mud on his pregnant ex-wife at a Lagos bus stop. What he doesn't know about who she married will destroy everything he's built. Welcome, everyone. This is our story. Don't forget to like, share, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. On a rain-soaked Lagos afternoon, Elizabeth stood waiting for a Danfo bus. The downpour had started without warning. Typical Lagos weather. One moment sunshine, the next moment chaos. It was 3:15 p.m. The sky is dark and angry overhead. Water pooled everywhere, turning streets into muddy rivers. She pressed herself against the rusted bus shelter. Her 7-month pregnant belly barely fits in the small space. Protection. Safety. That's all she wanted. Her hand clutched a worn plastic bag from Balogun Market. Inside were second-hand baby clothes. Tiny onesies. Small blankets. Soft boots. The only things she could afford on her grandmother's pension. Each piece purchased with careful consideration. Each naira counted twice. Her swollen feet ached in cheap slippers. Her faded Ankara dress clung to her body, damp from the humidity and occasional splashes from passing vehicles. Elizabeth shifted her weight. Careful. Always careful now. 7 months meant every movement mattered. Every step is calculated. She'd walked all the way from the market because she couldn't afford both the clothes and transportation. The choice was simple. Her baby needed clothes more than she needed comfort. Around her, Lagos moved with its usual frantic energy. Hawkers shouting. Okada riders weaving through traffic. Danfo buses packed beyond capacity. Everyone is rushing somewhere. Everyone is fighting for space. Fighting for survival. She was just another invisible person in the chaos. Another pregnant woman waiting. Another story no one cared to know. Then she heard it. That sound. The engine purrs of wealth and privilege cutting through the rain and traffic noise. Distinct. Unmistakable. A sound that once filled her with pride. Now it filled her with dread. Elizabeth's heart dropped. Her breath caught in her throat. She knew that engine sound. Knew it like she knew her own heartbeat. Had ridden in that car countless times. Back when she mattered. Back when she was someone. The black Bentley emerged through the rain. Sleek bodywork gleaming despite the downpour. Tinted windows like dark mirrors. Chrome gleaming. A moving statement of power and money. The kind of car that announced arrival before it even stopped. The kind of car that made pedestrians step back. Made traffic parts like water. Elizabeth's body tensed. Every muscle tightening. Protective instinct overwhelming everything else. She knew what was coming. Bentley slowed deliberately. Not stopping. Not passing normally. Slowing with purpose. With intention. The driver had seen her. Recognized her. Made a choice. The massive puddle stretched between the road and the shelter. Brown water mixed with oil and garbage. Deep. Wide. Unavoidable. Most drivers swerved away from it. Showed consideration for those waiting. Not this one. Bentley turned toward the puddle. Aimed directly at it. Aimed directly at her. Time seemed too slow. Elizabeth saw it happening but couldn't move fast enough. Pregnant. Trapped. The shelter wall behind her. The puddle before her. No escape route. No way to protect herself or her unborn child. The explosion came. Filthy water erupted like a bomb. A wall of brown sludge hit her with physical force. Cold. Shocking. Violent. It drenched her completely. Soaked through her faded Ankara dress within seconds. Ruined the precious baby clothes she'd spent hours selecting. Covered her pregnant stomach in thick mud. Splashed across her face. Filled her mouth. Stung her eyes. The force nearly knocked her off balance. She gasped. Shock stealing her breath. Her hands instinctively went to her belly. Protecting. Always protecting. The bag slipped from her fingers. Landed in the puddle. The baby clothes floating in dirty water. Weeks of savings are destroyed in seconds. Then came the sound that cut deeper than any mud ever could. The slow mechanical whir of a tinted window rolling down. Deliberate, theatrical, calculated for maximum humiliation. Through her mud-covered eyes, Elizabeth saw him. Raymond Thompson, her ex-husband. The billionaire tech mogul whose face graced Forbes Africa. Whose companies dominated 3 continents. Whose name opened doors across Nigeria. The man who promised her forever. The man who destroyed her completely. His face appeared in the window. Handsome. Cold. Twisted with contempt that made him ugly despite his expensive grooming. Designer suit. Perfect hair. Manicured nails gripping the leather interior. Everything about him screamed success. Power. Untouchability. And beside him, in the passenger seat, sat his new wife. The video vixen he'd married 3 months after discarding Elizabeth. Honey blonde weave cascading over designer clothes. Diamond earrings catching the dim afternoon light. Her face, once beautiful, now transformed by cruel laughter. Head thrown back. Mouth open. Enjoying the show. Reveling in another woman's destruction. Raymond leaned toward the open window. His eyes met Elizabeth's. No warmth. No recognition of shared history. No memory of the woman who'd built his empire alongside him. Who'd worked 2 jobs while he chased his dreams. Who'd coded beside him in their one-room sewer-lair apartment. Who'd believe in him when no one else would. Nothing. Just cold contempt. His voice emerged smoothly. Controlled. Each word is chosen for maximum damage. Each syllable is designed to wound. Still poor, still pathetic, still nothing. He paused. Let the words sink in. Let them land like blows. Then came the final strike. The one he'd been saving. The one that would haunt him forever, though he didn't know it yet. Exactly why I divorced you, you barren, worthless woman. The words hung in the humid air. Sharp. Final. Absolute. His new wife's laughter intensified. High-pitched. Mocking. The sound of someone who'd never known real pain. Never experienced real loss. Never understood that karma doesn't forget. Raymond smiled. That satisfied the predator's smile. The smile of someone who believes they've won completely. He raised his hand in a casual, dismissive wave. Like he was swatting away an insect. Like Elizabeth wasn't human. Wasn't worthy of basic respect. Wasn't even worth acknowledging as a person. The window rolled back up. Smooth. Mechanical. Sealing him back into his climate-controlled luxury. The Bentley accelerated. Engine roaring with expensive power. Tires throwing more muddy water in their wake. Gone within seconds. Leaving Elizabeth standing there. Drenched. Humiliated. Destroyed. Or so Raymond thought. Elizabeth stood motionless for several seconds. Water dripping from her hair. Mud sliding down her face. Her dress ruined. Her baby clothes floating in the puddle at her feet. People around her stared. Some with pity. Some with disgust. Most just looked away. Uncomfortable witnesses to public degradation. Her chest heaved with suppressed emotion. Tears mixed with rainwater and mud on her cheeks. Her hands trembled where they rested on her pregnant belly. Then she felt it. A kick. Hard. Insistent. Powerful. Her baby. Kicking against her ribs with force that made her breath catch. As if the child itself was protesting this injustice. As if her unborn baby was saying, enough. As if life growing inside her was demanding she stand up. Fight back. Stop accepting cruelty as her portion. Elizabeth's eyes opened. Something shifted behind them. Something cold and certain crystallizing from the heat of humiliation. Her trembling stopped. Her breathing steadied. Her spine straightened despite the weight of pregnancy and mud and public shame. Because Raymond Thompson didn't know. Couldn't know. Had no way of knowing. The secret she'd kept. The truth she'd protected. The power she'd chosen to hide until the right moment. And watching his Bentley disappear into Lagos traffic, Elizabeth made a decision. A quiet decision that would echo across Nigeria. A decision that would topple empires. A decision that would rewrite every assumption Raymond had ever made about power, worth, and consequences. It was time for the truth to surface. Time for justice to rise from the mud like something ancient and inevitable. Time for the barren, worthless woman to show exactly what she'd become while Raymond wasn't watching. Time for queens to reclaim their crowns. And Raymond Thompson had no idea, absolutely no idea, that the kingdom coming for him was one he couldn't buy, manipulate, or escape. The storm was gathering, and it would leave nothing standing. 5 years earlier, the apartment in Surulere had been their entire world. One room, shared bathroom down the hall, a hot plate for cooking, a mattress on the floor, windows that didn't quite close, letting in Lagos noise at all hours. But Elizabeth remembered it as the happiest time of her life. Back when love felt real. Back when promises meant something. She'd come home from her second job around midnight, exhausted, feet aching. But Raymond would still be awake, hunched over his laptop, lines of code filling the screen. She'd sit beside him on the floor, their shoulders touching, sharing the only chair they owned, taking turns. He'd explain his vision. Voice animated, eyes bright with dreams. A tech platform that would revolutionize how Nigerian businesses operated. Elizabeth didn't just listen. She built it with him, handled all the marketing while working as a secretary during the day and a waitress at night. Every naira she earned went into their dream, their future, their team. "We're building an empire together," Raymond would say, pulling her close. His voice warm. "Certain. You and me against the world, Lizzie. Forever." She believed him. God help her, she believed every word. 3 years later, everything had changed. Raymond's platform exploded. Forbes Africa featured him. Contracts worth millions flooded in. They moved from Surulere to Ikoyi. One room became 12. Shared bathroom became marble en suites. The hot plate became a chef's kitchen Elizabeth never used. Raymond changed faster than their address. New friends in designer clothes. New tastes in everything. New expectations. Especially of her. The criticism started small. Little comments that felt like paper cuts. "Maybe don't wear that ankara to the investor dinner, Lizzie. Try to use better grammar around my partners. You need to be more sophisticated." She tried. Changed her wardrobe. Watched her words. Studied etiquette. But nothing was ever enough. The paper cuts became knife wounds. "You embarrass me at these events. You're too simple for my circles now. I need a wife who understands this level." Then came the doctor's appointment he insisted on. The fertility specialist. The tests. Results that showed nothing wrong with her. But Raymond had already decided the narrative. Already chosen his escape route. "You're infertile, Elizabeth. Barren. I need an heir." The word hit like a slap. Barren. Like she was land that couldn't produce. Like she was broken. Worthless. Less than human. He filed for divorce the next day. Not privately. Not with dignity. He announced it on social media. Thousands of followers watching him discard her publicly. His post framed her as the failure. The woman who couldn't give Nigeria's rising tech star what he deserved. The comments flooded in. Strangers mocking her body. Her worth. Her very existence. He took everything. The company she'd helped build, now solely his. The house, his name on the deed. Her dignity, shredded across social media. She signed the papers because she had no choice. No money for lawyers. No energy to fight. Just numb acceptance that the man she loved had become someone unrecognizable. 3 months later, Raymond married Cynthia, the video vixen who'd been his personal assistant. A wedding that cost 200 million naira. Helicopter entrance. Celebrity guests. Fireworks spelling their names. Every detail broadcast live on Instagram. Every moment designed to show the world what he'd upgraded to. Elizabeth watched from her grandmother's small television in Enugu. Watched him smile. Watched him dance. Watched him look happier than he'd ever looked with her. That night, she deleted every photo. Threw away every memory. Swallowed her shame like bitter medicine. And disappeared. The bus from Lagos to Enugu had taken 8 hours. every pothole jarring Elizabeth's spine, every stop reminding her she was running away. But when she finally arrived at her grandmother's village, something unexpected happened. She could breathe again. The air was different here. Clean. Quiet. No car horns blaring. No crowds pressing. No strangers recognizing her as that barren woman from social media. Just red earth and palm trees and the sound of roosters at dawn. Her grandmother asked no questions. Just held her. Fed her. Let her heal in silence. Elizabeth helped in the garden. Hands in soil. Planting vegetables. Watering seedlings. The simple work grounded her. Reminded her that growth was still possible. That things buried could still rise. 3 months later, her grandmother mentioned the agricultural cooperative meeting. They need someone who understands technology, she said. Maybe you could help? Elizabeth almost refused. Almost. But something about the word technology pulled at her. Reminded her she'd once been good at something. Once built something that mattered. The meeting was held under a large mango tree. Farmers gathered on wooden benches, discussing crop yields and market access and irrigation problems. Elizabeth sat quietly in the back, just observing. Then a man stood to speak. Simple shirt. Old Toyota parked nearby. Dirt under his fingernails. But when he talked about sustainable farming practices, his voice carried genuine passion. Knowledge without arrogance. Wisdom without performance. Samuel. After the meeting, he approached her. Your Mama Chioma's granddaughter? His smile was warm. Genuine. No agenda behind it. She mentioned you understand technology. We're trying to create a database for crop rotation schedules. Could use some help if you're interested. They started meeting twice a week, working on the database under that same mango tree. But the conversations expanded beyond farming. He asked about her dreams. Not her past. Not why she'd left Lagos. Not who she'd been married to. He asked what she wanted to build. What mattered to her. What made her feel alive. Elizabeth found herself talking. Really talking. About sustainable agriculture models. About how technology could empower rural farmers. About systems that centered people instead of profits. Samuel listened like her words had weight. Value. Like she wasn't broken or worthless or barren. Just human. Just brilliant. Love grew slowly. Like the vegetables in her grandmother's garden. Patient. Organic. Nourished by something deeper than attraction. He never rushed her. Never demanded her story. Never expected anything except her presence. Honest. Real. Healing. 6 months after they met, Samuel took her to see his experimental farm. Acres of thriving crops using innovative irrigation. This is what I do, he said simply. I grow things. Help things flourish. He looked at her. You do that too, Elizabeth. You help things grow. I see it. She cried. Not from sadness. From being seen. Actually seen. For the first time in years. They married quietly 8 months later. Small ceremony. Village elders. Her grandmother weeping with joy. Samuel's family present, but oddly formal. Elizabeth didn't question it. Didn't need to understand everything. Just needed to feel safe. Loved. Valued. Then came the morning sickness. The missed period. The pregnancy test showing 2 lines. Elizabeth stared at it for a full minute. Disbelief. Wonder. Vindication. Her body wasn't broken. Never had been. Only her spirit under Raymond's cruelty. When she showed Samuel, he wept. Actual tears streaming down his face. Our child, he whispered. Our family. No talk of heirs or bloodlines or what the baby would give him. Just joy. Pure. Uncomplicated. Real. But Samuel had a truth to share too. One evening, he drove her to Abuja. There's someone you need to meet, he said. They passed security checkpoints. Government compounds. Elizabeth's confusion grew with each gate, until they pulled up to a mansion she'd only seen on television. Senator Anderson emerged. Nigeria's newly appointed prime minister. The most powerful man in the country. Samuel's father. Elizabeth's breath caught. He's... I chose a simple life, Samuel explained quietly. I needed to know people loved Samuel. Not the prime minister's son. Not the power or connections. Just me. His eyes held hers. I needed someone who saw my heart. You did. Before knowing anything else. Elizabeth understood and respected it deeply. When Prime Minister Anderson offered to announce their marriage publicly, she refused. Not yet, she said. Let us have peace. Let our baby come without media chaos. Please. Samuel's father agreed. Reluctantly, but agreed. So they kept the secret. Lived quietly. Prepared for their child. Elizabeth finally felt whole. Finally felt hope. Finally believed her story could have a happy ending. She just didn't know that ending would require one more chapter of pain. One more public humiliation. One more encounter with the man who destroyed her. Before justice could rise. Before crowns could be reclaimed. Before kingdoms worthy of queens could be revealed. Elizabeth stood at the Lagos bus stop, mud dripping from her body, her baby's kick still reverberating through her ribs. She watched Raymond's Bentley disappear into traffic. His laughter. His cruelty. His absolute certainty that he'd won. That she was nothing. Would always be nothing. Her phone vibrated in her bag, miraculously still dry in a sealed pocket. Samuel's name flashed on the screen. She answered with trembling hands. Lizzie, where are you? His voice carried immediate concern. He always knew, always sensed when something was wrong. I'm coming to get you. The bus stopped near Balogun Market, she whispered. Her voice cracked. Samuel, but the words wouldn't come. Couldn't form past the humiliation lodged in her throat like something physical. I'm already in the car. 10 minutes. Stay there. He arrived in 8. The old Toyota, pulling up gently. No splashing. No theatrics. Just Samuel emerging quickly, his face transforming when he saw her. Covered in mud. Shaking. Clutching her ruined bag of baby clothes. Elizabeth. He was beside her instantly. Arms around her. Not caring about the filth. Not caring who watched. Just holding her. Protective. Certain. Who did this? She told him everything. The words spilling out between sobs. The deliberate swerving. The window rolling down. Raymond's face. His words. Barren. Worthless. Nothing. The laughter of his new wife. The baby clothes ruined. 3 months of saving destroyed in seconds. Samuel's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened with something she'd never seen before. Not anger. Something colder. More dangerous. Controlled fury that came from power held in check. Get in the car, he said quietly. Too quietly. We're going home. Then I'm making a call. The drive to their Abuja residence was silent. Samuel's hands gripped the steering wheel. White-knuckled. Thinking. Planning. Elizabeth watched his profile. Saw the transformation. The humble agronomist fading. Something else emerging. Someone else. The Prime Minister's son who'd chosen simplicity, but never lost access to power. At home, Samuel helped her shower. Washed mud from her hair with gentle hands. Found clean clothes. Made her tea. Then he disappeared into his study. She heard his voice through the door. Low. Serious. Father, we need to talk. Now. Yes, it's about Elizabeth. Someone heard her. Publicly. Deliberately. A pause. Raymond Thompson. An hour later, Prime Minister Anderson arrived. Not at their residence. He sent a car. Brought them to the presidential compound. Elizabeth sat in an ornate sitting room while father and son spoke in private. She caught fragments through the heavy doors. Unacceptable. Public assault. Pregnant. My daughter-in-law. Time to make this official. When they emerged, Prime Minister Anderson's face was set like granite. He approached Elizabeth with surprising gentleness for such a powerful man. Took her hands in his. My dear, I am deeply sorry for what you endured today. No one treats my family this way and walks away unscathed. I don't want revenge, Elizabeth said quietly. I just want dignity. I want my baby born in peace. Dignity, the Prime Minister repeated. He exchanged a look with Samuel.
Yes, dignity.
Justice. These things can coexist. He sat beside her. Elizabeth, I respect your desire for privacy. I've honored it for months. But this man has forced our hand. He assaulted you publicly, humiliated you publicly. Therefore, justice must also be public. Elizabeth's hands instinctively went to her belly. Protected. Always protecting. What are you saying? Samuel knelt before her. Eye level. His voice is gentle but firm. Someone filmed it, Lizzie. The whole thing. It's already spreading online. People are sharing the video. Your humiliation is becoming entertainment. His jaw clenched. But we can change the narrative. We can reveal the truth. Show them exactly who you are, who you've become, who Raymond really attacked today. A press conference, Prime Minister Anderson said. Tomorrow morning, the three of us, we announce your marriage,
Introduce you as my daughter-in-law.
reveal that the barren, worthless woman Raymond Thompson just degraded is carrying my grandchild and protected by the full power of this office. Elizabeth's breath caught. The privacy she'd cherished. The peaceful anonymity.
Gone.
Replaced by exposure. Cameras. Judgment. But Samuel squeezed her hands. You wanted dignity, he said softly. This is how you reclaim it. Not by hiding. Not by accepting his narrative. By standing in your truth.
Publicly.
Powerfully. Undeniably. His eyes held hers. You're not vengeful for defending yourself. You're not petty for demanding respect. You're a queen reclaiming her crown. Elizabeth looked between them. Father and son. Both powerful in different ways. Both offering her something Raymond never had. Protection.
Partnership.
The freedom to be both humble and powerful simultaneously. She thought about her unborn children. What lessons would she teach them? That dignity meant silence in the face of cruelty? That power should hide from bullies? That queens should accept mud without response?
No.
Okay, she whispered. Then stronger. Okay, let's do it. Prime Minister Anderson smiled. Not triumphant. Respectful. We'll handle everything. You just rest tonight. Tomorrow, Nigeria learns who you really are. And Raymond Thompson learns what it costs to attack the wrong woman. That night, Elizabeth couldn't sleep. She lay beside Samuel, feeling their baby move. Tomorrow would change everything. No more hiding. No more peace. But maybe, just maybe, no more shame either. Maybe it was time for the barren woman to show exactly how fertile her life had become. Maybe it was time for the worthless nothing to reveal her worth. Maybe it was time for the queens to stop waiting quietly for kingdoms. Maybe it was time to claim them. The video appeared on Twitter at 6:47 p.m. posted by a shop owner whose security camera had captured everything. Every detail. Every second. Crystal clear footage that left no room for interpretation or excuse. The black Bentley is slowly slowing. The calculated swerve toward the puddle. The explosion of muddy water hitting a pregnant woman. The window rolling down with theatrical cruelty. Raymond Thompson's face.
Clear as day.
Recognizable to anyone who followed Nigerian tech news. His new wife laughed beside him. The audio was captured too. Every word is preserved with perfect clarity. Still poor, still pathetic, still nothing. Exactly why I divorced you. You are a barren, worthless woman. The caption was simple. Devastating. Billionaire Raymond Thompson deliberately splashing mud on a pregnant woman at Lagos bus stop. Is this who our business leaders really are? Within 30 minutes, the video had 5,000 views. Within an hour, 50,000. By 8 p.m., 500,000. The numbers climbed exponentially. Unstoppable. Viral in the truest sense. Spreading like wildfire through dry grass. The comments section exploded. This is absolutely disgusting. What kind of monster does this to a pregnant woman? Raymond Thompson should be ashamed. Billionaire or not, this is pure evil. And he called her barren? While she's clearly pregnant. Make it make sense. The way his wife laughed. They're both sick. I'm deleting all Raytech apps right now. Not supporting this. Women's rights groups mobilized immediately. The Nigerian Feminist Forum issued a statement within 2 hours. This video represents everything wrong with how wealthy men treat vulnerable women. We demand accountability. We demand justice. We demand Raymond Thompson's answer for this public assault. Celebrities began weighing in. Musicians, actors, influencers with millions of followers. Each post adds fuel to the raging fire. Just watch that Raymond Thompson video. I'm actually sick to my stomach. That's someone's daughter. Someone's mother. How do you treat another human being like that? Billionaires really think money makes them untouchable. Raymond Thompson is about to learn otherwise. The cruelty in his voice when he called her barren. Like she's not even human. Like pregnancy doesn't count if you're poor. I'm disgusted. By 10 p.m., hashtag Justice for Elizabeth was trending #1 in Nigeria. #3 across Africa. The video had been viewed 7 million times.
Shared. Dissected.
Analyzed. Raymond's face everywhere. His cruelty on display. His words repeated endlessly. Major brands started making calculations, running risk assessments, measuring public sentiment against contract values. By midnight, the first announcement came. A telecommunications company. After careful consideration of recent events, we have decided to discontinue our partnership with Raytech Solutions, effective immediately. We do not condone behavior that degrades or dehumanizes any individual. Another followed an hour later. A banking app, then a logistics platform. Each statement is carefully worded, each essentially saying the same thing. We can't be associated with this. We won't be associated with you. Raymond's phone had been ringing non-stop since 7 p.m. His PR team is in full panic mode. Crisis management protocols activated. But this wasn't a crisis you could manage. Wasn't a scandal you could spin. The video was too clear. The cruelty is too obvious. The audio, too damning. His PR director crafted a statement. Posted it at 11:43 p.m. Mr. Raymond Thompson deeply regrets any misunderstanding arising from today's incident. He has the utmost respect for all individuals and did not intend to cause distress. He apologizes for any offense taken. The response was immediate and brutal. Misunderstanding? We have video. We have audio. There's no misunderstanding here. Any offense taken? How about offense given? The audacity. This is the weakest apology I've ever seen. Take responsibility or don't bother. He regrets the misunderstanding, not his actions. Classic non-apology from a coward. The statement made everything worse. Poured gasoline on flames already consuming his reputation. By 2 a.m., Raytech's stock price had dropped 12%. By dawn, 18%. Investors are getting nervous. Board members making discreet calls. Lawyers reviewing contracts for exit clauses. Raymond sat in his Ikoyi mansion, watching his world fracture through a phone screen. Cynthia had locked herself in the bedroom, refused to come out. Her own Instagram flooded with hatred. Comments calling her cruel, evil, complicit. Her carefully curated influencer image was destroyed in hours. This will blow over, Raymond told himself. Said it out loud to make it real. They'll forget. They always forget. I'm too big to cancel. Too important. Too. But even as he spoke, he felt the ground shifting beneath him. Felt something he'd never felt before in his charmed, successful, untouchable life. Fear. Real fear. Because the court of public opinion had delivered its verdict. And unlike the courts where he could hire expensive lawyers, unlike the business world where he could leverage connections, this judgment was beyond his control. Beyond his money. Beyond his power. He was being tried by millions. Sentenced by consensus. Executed in real time across social media platforms he couldn't control or influence or buy his way out of. And the worst part, the part that would haunt him soon enough, was that he still didn't know who he'd actually attacked. Still didn't understand that the pregnant woman covered in mud wasn't just his ex-wife. She was connected to power that made his billions look like pocket change. Protected by influence that made his connections look like parlor tricks. Married into a family that could unmake him with a single phone call. But Raymond Thompson, scrolling through endless condemnation on his phone at 3 a.m., his empire already cracking, his reputation already shattered, still had no idea. The real earthquake hadn't even started yet. That would come with the morning news. With cameras flashing. With a press conference that would rewrite everything he thought he knew about power, consequences, and the woman he'd thrown away like garbage. Justice was coming. Not loud, not quick, but absolutely inevitable. And it would leave nothing standing. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. By 8:30, journalists packed the State House Media Center. Cameras from every major network.
NTA.
Channels TV.
8.
BBC Africa. CNN International. Photographers jostling for position. Reporters checking equipment. Producers barking instructions through headsets. Something big was happening. Prime Minister Anderson never called emergency press conferences without reason. The speculation ran wild through the crowd. Whispered theories exchanged between competitors. Temporary alliances formed in pursuit of breaking news. Maybe it's about the economy. New fiscal policy. Could be cabinet reshuffling. He's been quiet on appointments. Security briefing? Boko Haram activity up north. Oil production targets? Nobody guessed correctly.
How could they?
The truth was too unexpected. Too cinematically perfect. Too much like divine intervention for cynical journalists to predict. At 9:55, government officials began filing in. Serious faces. Formal attire. The energy shifted. Became electric. Charged with anticipation. Cameras went live. Reporters straightened. Press credentials checked one final time. Then, at exactly 10 a.m., the side door opened. Prime Minister Anderson entered first. Navy suit.
Red tie.
Presidential bearing that commanded immediate silence. The room fell quiet. Absolute attention. He walked to the podium with measured steps. Unhurried. A man who controlled time rather than being controlled by it. Behind him, a young man in simple but elegant attire. Samuel. Some journalists recognized him vaguely. The Prime Minister's son. Rarely seen in public. Deliberately low profile. A few cameras swung toward him. Curious. Confused about his presence. Then she entered. Elizabeth. The room's collective breath caught. She wore elegant Nigerian lace. Deep purple with gold threading. Traditional but sophisticated. Her pregnancy is radiant and unmistakable. 7 months showing proudly. No shame. No hiding. Her hair styled beautifully. Makeup is subtle but flawless. She glowed with something beyond physical beauty.
Dignity.
Power. Unshakable presence. Several journalists leaned forward. Something familiar about her face. Where had they seen her before? Recognition dawning slowly. Then faster. Then all at once. Phones buzzed. Producers frantically Googling. Someone pulled up yesterday's viral video on their tablet. Compared the mud-covered woman to this elegant figure beside the Prime Minister. Same face. Same woman. Impossible. Yet undeniable. The murmurs started. Whispers cascading through the packed room. That's her. The woman from the video. What is she doing here? Why is she with? Oh my God. Prime Minister Anderson raised his hand. Silence crashed down immediately. He looked across the room. Made eye contact with specific journalists. Let the weight of his position settle over everyone present. When he spoke, his voice carried absolute authority.
Clear.
Measured. Every word is chosen with precision. Good morning. Thank you for coming on short notice. I have called this press conference to address a matter of both personal and national importance. Cameras clicked. Recorders captured every syllable. Yesterday afternoon, a video circulated online showing a pregnant woman being deliberately assaulted at a Lagos bus stop. Many of you have seen it. Many Nigerians have seen it. The cruelty displayed was shocking. The casual dehumanization is disturbing. The public response has been appropriately outraged. He paused. Let the moment breathe. What the man in that video did not know, what Nigeria did not know until this moment, is the identity of the woman he attacked. Prime Minister Anderson gestured. Elizabeth stepped forward, stood beside him. Samuel moved to her other side. A united front. A family. Protected. Powerful. Unmistakable. This is Elizabeth Anderson. My daughter-in-law. The wife of my son Samuel. The mother of my grandchild. The room exploded. Cameras flashed like lightning. Rapid fire. Blinding. The sound of shutters like machine guns. Reporters shouted questions over each other. Producers screamed into phones. Are you getting this? Tell me you're getting this. This is huge. Journalists lunged forward. Microphones thrust toward the podium. When did they marry? How long have you known? Why was this kept secret? What about Raymond Thompson? Does he know? What will you do? Prime Minister Anderson raised his hand again. The chaos subsided.
Barely.
Everyone is on the edge of their seats, desperate for more, hungry for every detail. My son and Elizabeth married 8 months ago in a private ceremony. They chose to keep their union quiet, away from media attention, to build their life together in peace. I respected their wishes, honored their privacy. His expression hardened, voice dropping to something colder, more dangerous. Yesterday, a man decided that wealth gave him the right to publicly humiliate a pregnant woman. To call her worthless. To call her barren while she carries life. To treat her as less than human because he believed she was powerless, unprotected, unable to defend herself. The room was absolutely silent now. Everyone understood what was coming. The weight of consequences is about to fall. That man was wrong. Prime Minister Anderson's hand moved to Elizabeth's shoulder. Protective, paternal, unmistakable message to everyone watching. This woman is not powerless. She is not unprotected. She is not worthless. She is my daughter, my family, and anyone who attacks my family attacks me. He leaned toward the microphone. Let the words land with full force. Raymond Thompson publicly assaulted my daughter-in-law yesterday, degraded her, humiliated her, endangered her, and my unborn grandchild. Therefore, I am announcing the following actions, effective immediately. Pens flew across notebooks. Fingers typed frantically on phones and laptops. All government contracts currently held by Raytech Solutions are under immediate review for compliance violations. The Corporate Affairs Commission will conduct a comprehensive audit of the company's registration and tax filings. The central bank will suspend Raytech's banking licenses pending investigation of financial irregularities. The FCC will examine all transactions for the past 5 years. Each sentence fell like a hammer blow. Each announcement is more devastating than the last. Mr. Thompson will discover that cruelty has consequences, that power protects the powerless, that this government stands with the vulnerable, not the vicious. Prime Minister Anderson turned slightly, looked at Elizabeth with genuine warmth, genuine love. My daughter has shown more grace under attack than most could imagine. She wanted peace, privacy, simply to raise her child without chaos. But sometimes silence enables evil. Sometimes justice requires visibility. He faced the cameras again, addressed the nation. To every woman who has been degraded by powerful men. To everyone told they are worthless because they lack wealth or status. To the vulnerable who believe no one sees their suffering. This government sees you. This office protects you. And anyone who mistakes kindness for weakness, humility for helplessness, will learn otherwise. Elizabeth stepped to the microphone. Samuel beside her. Supporting. Present. Her voice emerged soft but carried to every corner. Every camera. Every Nigerian watching live. Yesterday, my ex-husband tried to destroy me again. Used the same words he'd used to divorce me.
Barren.
Worthless. Nothing. But I stand here today carrying life. Surrounded by love. Protected by a family who values me not for what I produce, but for who I am." Tears filled some journalists' eyes. Hardened reporters were moved by the simple dignity of her words. "My worth was never in his hands to define. My dignity was never his to take. And to every woman watching who has been called worthless by someone who should have loved you, you are everything. You always were." The room erupted in applause. Spontaneous. Unprecedented in a government press conference. Journalists breaking protocol because the moment demanded it. Prime Minister Anderson concluded firmly, "This press conference is over. But Mr. Thompson's reckoning has just begun." They walked out together. Family. United. Leaving behind an explosion of activity. Reporters sprinting to file stories. Producers screaming for live shots. Social media literally breaking under the weight of revelation. Across Lagos, in an Ikoyi mansion, Raymond Thompson watched the press conference on television. Watched his world end in real time. His face drained of all color. His hands trembled. His phone began ringing. Government officials. Board members. Lawyers.
Investors.
All with the same message. "You're finished." Raymond's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Each call brought worse news. Each conversation another nail in a coffin being built in real time. 10:47 a.m. The Minister of Communications. Voice cold. Professional. Completely devoid of the warmth from their golf game 2 weeks ago. "Raymond, I'm calling to inform you that the federal ministry is immediately suspending all technology contracts with Raytech pending compliance review. You'll receive formal notification within the hour. Minister, please, if we could just discuss." The line went dead. 10:52 a.m. His largest private investor. American. Usually jovial.
Not today.
"Raymond, the board met this morning. Emergency session. We're pulling out. All $40 million. Contract Clause 7.3 covers reputational damage that affects company viability. This qualifies. Withdrawal is effective immediately. Jeff, you can't do this. We have projects in development.
Commitments.
If you pull out now." Should have thought about that before you decided to play in traffic puddles, buddy. "Our legal team is already drafting the paperwork."
Click.
11:15 a.m. His company's chief operating officer. Panic barely concealed beneath professional veneer. "Raymond, we need to talk.
Now."
The central bank just froze our operating accounts. All of them. We can't process payments. Can't pay staff. Can't access operational funds. We're essentially shut down." Raymond's chest tightened. "That's impossible. They need court orders. Due process. They can't just. They can when the Prime Minister wants them to. And apparently he does." 11:33 a.m. His corporate lawyer. The expensive one. The one who'd gotten him out of 3 different legal situations. Even his voice sounded defeated. "Raymond, I've been contacted by the FCC. They're opening a formal investigation. 5 years of transactions. They want everything. Bank records. Contracts. Emails. Everything. This is serious. This is prison-level serious. They can't have grounds. My accounting is clean. Everything is. When the FCC wants to find something, they find something. You know how this works. And right now, they're very motivated to find things." By noon, Raytech stock had crashed. Down 43%. Trading suspended twice for volatility. Investors dumping shares like they were on fire. The company Raymond had built over a decade, losing half its value in 2 hours. His office became a war room. Executives rushing in and out. Lawyers conferring in corners. The PR team frantically drafting statements that sounded weaker with each revision. But the real damage was happening in silence. In text messages not sent. In calls not returned. In meetings suddenly canceled. His business partners ghosted him. Associates he'd had dinner with last week now unreachable. Mr. Adekunle is unavailable. Mrs. Oladipo is traveling. Chief Bello cannot come to the phone. The truth was simple. Brutal. Final. Nobody crosses the Prime Minister's family and survives in Nigerian business. Not billionaires. Not tech moguls. Not Forbes Africa cover stars. Nobody. Raymond had become radioactive overnight. Untouchable in the worst possible way. The association with him meant risk. Risk meant loss. Loss meant you cut ties immediately and publicly. At 2 p.m., his chief financial officer knocked on his office door. Face grave. Holding a folder like it contained his execution order. Maybe it did. Raymond, we need to talk about liquidity. With accounts frozen and contracts suspended, we can't meet next week's payroll. We have 847 employees. We can't pay any of them. What about reserve funds? Emergency accounts? All frozen. Everything connected to Raytech Solutions is locked down. We have maybe 3 weeks of runway if, and this is a big if, we can unfreeze operational accounts. Otherwise, we're looking at mass layoffs. Bankruptcy. Complete collapse. Raymond's hands shook. He pressed them flat against his mahogany desk. The expensive one.
Custom-made.
Italian wood. Cost more than most people's cars. Now it felt like it was made of sand. Everything crumbling beneath his palms. At 3:30 p.m., the real betrayal came. Cynthia emerged from the bedroom. Designer suitcase in hand. Sunglasses hiding her eyes, even though they were indoors. Her voice flat. Emotionless. Already detached. I'm leaving. Raymond looked up. What? I'm leaving. My lawyer is filing divorce papers today. I want half of everything. Well, half of whatever's left after this disaster. Cynthia, you can't, This is temporary. I can fix this. She laughed. Sharp. Bitter. Nothing like the sweet giggles she'd perform for cameras. Fix this? Raymond, you publicly humiliated the Prime Minister's daughter-in-law. You're done. Finished. And I'm not going down with you. You were laughing. In the car. You were part of. I was the passenger in your car. Your decision to splash her. Your words. Your cruelty. My lawyer will make that very clear in court. She adjusted her sunglasses. Besides, I have proof you've been hiding assets. Offshore accounts. Properties in my name you thought I didn't know about. That'll play nicely in divorce proceedings. You've been planning this? I've been planning for the possibility, yes. You think I married you for love? She moved toward the door, heels clicking on marble. I married you for money and status. The money's disappearing. The status is toxic. So I'm cutting my losses while I still can. Cynthia? Oh, and Raymond? About those offshore accounts? I already gave copies of everything to my lawyer. And I might have mentioned them to a few journalists. Just in case the FCC needs help finding things. She walked out, the front door closing with expensive finality, leaving Raymond alone in his 12-bedroom mansion that suddenly felt like a mausoleum, a monument to pride, a temple to arrogance. Now empty, echoing, collapsing. His phone rang again. His mother. Finally. Someone who would understand. Someone who would support him. Mama. Thank God. I need. Raymond, what have you done? Her voice cracked. Devastated. Ashamed. I watched the press conference. Saw what you did.
How could you?
How could you treat another human being like that? A pregnant woman? Mama, that's Elizabeth. My ex-wife. The one who... I don't care who she is. You deliberately splashed her with mud. Called her worthless. Barren. What happened to the son I raised? When did you become this person? Mama, please. I need family right now. I need. Family? You want family? Her voice rose. Angry tears audible. The Prime Minister just told the entire nation what you are. A bully. A coward. Someone who attacks pregnant women. Do you know what my friends are saying? What the church is saying. I can't show my face anywhere. This will pass. Once things calm down. I'm ashamed of you, Raymond. Deeply ashamed. Your father is ashamed. We didn't raise you to be cruel. She paused. Don't call this house again until you've apologized. Publicly. Sincerely. And changed who you've become. The line went dead. Raymond sat alone in his office as the sun set, watched shadows lengthen across his awards and accolades. Forbes covers framed on the wall, business excellence trophies, photos with celebrities and politicians. All meaningless now. Worse than meaningless. Evidence of a height that made the fall more devastating. His empire was crumbling. His marriage over. His family ashamed. His reputation destroyed. His freedom threatened. All because of one moment, one decision, one cruel impulse to remind his ex-wife that he'd won and she'd lost. Except he hadn't won. He'd lost everything. And she, Elizabeth, the woman he'd called barren and worthless, she stood beside the Prime Minister.
Glowing.
Protected. Pregnant with twins, he'd later learn. Proof that his lies had always been lies. That her body was never broken. Only his character. Raymond's phone buzzed one more time. A notification. Not a call. A news alert. Breaking. Raymond Thompson's Raytech Solutions files for emergency bankruptcy protection. Stock delisted. Trading suspended indefinitely. 847 employees to be laid off. He stared at the screen until it went dark. Watched his reflection appear in the black glass. A man he didn't recognize. A stranger wearing his face. A billionaire with nothing. A success story rewritten as cautionary tale. Outside, Lagos continued. Traffic.
Noise. Life.
The city didn't care about fallen kings. Didn't mourn destroyed empires.
Just moved on.
Found new stories. New scandals. New people to elevate and eventually crush. But for Raymond Thompson, time had stopped. At the moment when he splashed mud on a pregnant woman at a bus stop. At the moment when he mistook cruelty for power. At the moment when he attacked the wrong queen. And discovered too late that some crowns come with kingdoms behind them. Kingdoms with the power to reduce empires to dust. 3 weeks later, Elizabeth went into labor. It started at 2 a.m., gentle contractions that grew stronger. Samuel was awake instantly. Alert. Moving with calm efficiency despite the nervousness flickering behind his eyes. He'd been sleeping lightly for days. Waiting. Ready. Is it time? He asked, already reaching for the packed hospital bag. Elizabeth nodded. Breathed through another contraction. It's time. The drive to the private wing of National Hospital in Abuja was quiet. Samuel's hand holding hers, squeezing gently with each contraction. No panic, no rushing, just steady presence. The kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself. Security had been arranged discreetly. Prime Minister Anderson's doing. No media circus. No cameras. Just protection. Privacy.
Peace.
The things Elizabeth had requested. The things she deserved. The labor was long, but uncomplicated. Samuel never left her side. Held her hand. Wiped her forehead. Whispered encouragement. You're strong. You're doing perfectly. I'm here. Always here. At 11:47 a.m., their son entered the world. Small. Perfect. Crying with healthy lungs. The doctor placed him on Elizabeth's chest. Skin to skin. Mother and child. She looked down at his tiny face and wept. Not from pain. From vindication. From joy. From the profound relief of holding proof that her body had never been broken. Hello, my love, she whispered. My beautiful boy. 13 minutes later, their daughter arrived. Smaller than her brother, but equally fierce. Equally perfect. The nurse cleaned her gently and laid her beside her twin. 2 babies. 2 lives. 2 pieces of her heart outside her body. Samuel stood beside the bed. Tears streaming openly down his face. No shame. No hiding. Just pure, overwhelming love. He kissed Elizabeth's forehead. Then each baby. His family. Complete. They're perfect, he whispered. You're perfect. Prime Minister Anderson arrived an hour later. Still in his suit from a morning meeting. But the presidential demeanor dissolved the moment he saw his grandchildren.
His face softened.
Transformed. He held each baby with surprising gentleness for hands that wielded such power. Welcome, he whispered to them. Welcome to the world. You have no idea how loved you already are. Elizabeth watched this powerful man become simply a grandfather.
Cooing. Smiling.
Making silly faces. The contrast beautiful. Humbling. A reminder that titles and positions were temporary. But family was eternal. 2 weeks passed in peaceful adjustment. Sleepless nights. Endless feedings. The beautiful chaos of newborn twins. Elizabeth and Samuel existed in a bubble, learning their children, learning each other as parents, building their family away from cameras and judgment and the world's expectations. But Prime Minister Anderson had other plans.
Good plans.
Plans that honored Elizabeth's dignity while celebrating her triumph. A naming ceremony he proposed during a visit. Traditional, beautiful, televised, not for spectacle, for testimony, for every woman who needs to see that dignity wins, that cruelty fails, that queens do reclaim their crowns. Elizabeth hesitated. The privacy had been healing, precious. But Samuel took her hand. He's right, Lizzie. Your silence protects you, but your voice protects others. Women watching. Women suffering. Women who need to see that the story doesn't end with humiliation. It ends with coronation. She looked at her babies, sleeping peacefully, innocent, unaware that they'd been called impossible before they existed, that their very presence was rebellion, revolution.
Proof.
Okay, she agreed softly, but I choose what I say. I control my narrative. Always, Prime Minister Anderson promised. This is your story. We're just providing the platform. The naming ceremony was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The Prime Minister's official Abuja residence. The grand hall that hosted dignitaries and diplomats. Now hosting something more important, more sacred. Family. The morning arrived bright and clear. Elizabeth wore stunning traditional attire. Deep blue osso oak with gold threading. A geli wrapped expertly. Jewelry that spoke of heritage and dignity. She looked regal, radiant, unmistakably powerful. Samuel wore matching attire. Their babies dressed in tiny traditional outfits. Perfect. Beautiful. The cameras would capture a family. United. Unbroken. Victorious not through revenge, but through survival. Through thriving despite cruelty's attempts to destroy. The guest list was carefully curated. Government officials, diplomats, foreign ambassadors, but also women's rights activists, NGO leaders, community organizers, people who worked daily with women escaping abuse, escaping shame, escaping narratives that said they were worthless. The ceremony began traditionally. Elders blessing the babies, prayers offered, names announced. The boy, Chibuzo, God leads. The girl, Oluchi, God's work. Names that carried meaning, purpose, declaration. Then Elizabeth stood, her babies in their grandmother's arms, Samuel beside her. She approached the microphone. The room fell silent. Every camera focused, every ear listening. Nigeria watching, the world watching. Her voice emerged soft but carried everywhere.
Clear. Certain.
Unshakable. My children, you are being welcomed today into a world that will sometimes be cruel, that will sometimes judge you, that will sometimes try to define your worth by external measures. But I need you to know something. Need everyone watching to know something.
She paused.
Looked directly into the cameras. You are not revenge. You were not born to prove anything to anyone who hurt me. You were born because love happened. Because healing happened. Because a man saw my worth when I'd forgotten it myself. Tears flowed freely in the audience. Tough politicians. Hardened diplomats. All moved. Your father loved me when I was broken. When I believed the lies told about me. When I thought barren was my name instead of beloved. He showed me that true love doesn't wait for perfection. It sees worth beneath wounds. It chooses presence over performance. Samuel's hand found hers.
Squeezed.
Supporting even in her moment of testimony. My children, You are proof that God's timing breaks every human cruelty, that humility always outlasts arrogance, that a woman's worth was never in her womb or her marriage, but in her unshakable dignity, the very thing no ex-husband, no public humiliation, and no amount of mud could ever wash away. The room erupted in applause. Standing ovation. Spontaneous. Powerful. But Elizabeth raised her hand. She wasn't finished. To every woman watching who has been called worthless by someone who should have loved you, listen carefully. You are everything. You always were. The person who couldn't see your value was simply blind. Their blindness doesn't change your truth. She looked at her children, voice softening, filling with maternal tenderness. And to every woman told she was barren, broken, unable to produce, your worth was never in what your body could create. You are not a factory. You are not an investment. You are a human being deserving of love simply because you exist. More applause. Louder now. Women standing, crying, clapping until their hands hurt. Recognition. Solidarity. Healing happening in real time through shared testimony. Elizabeth's final words came quietly, but they landed with the force of absolute truth. Queens don't lose crowns when cruel men try to strip them away. They simply wait. Patient, dignified, unbreakable. They wait for kingdoms worthy of their reign. And when those kingdoms come, they come with the force of divine justice. She stepped back, Samuel's arm around her, their babies held by grandparents. Family, complete, victorious not through revenge, but through redemption, through choosing dignity over bitterness, through building rather than destroying. The ceremony continued. Food, music, celebration. But the moment that would be replayed endlessly across Nigerian media, shared millions of times on social media, quoted in sermons and speeches and women's meetings. That moment was Elizabeth's testimony. Her refusal to let cruelty have the final word. Her insistence that worth was inherent, not earned. Her demonstration that queens do rise. And kingdoms do come. Across Lagos, in an empty mansion in Ikoyi, Raymond Thompson watched the ceremony on television. The house was quiet now. Staff gone. Wife gone. Friends gone. Just him and the echoes of what he'd lost. He watched Elizabeth glow. Watched her hold the children she was never supposed to have. Watched her speak with eloquence and grace about dignity and worth. Watched the Prime Minister beam with pride. Watched Samuel look at her like she hung the moon. And Raymond finally understood. The woman he'd thrown away like garbage had always been a queen. He'd just lacked the wisdom to recognize royalty when it stood before him. The mansion felt like a tomb. 12 bedrooms. No occupants. Crystal chandeliers still gleaming. No one to see them. Italian marble floors polished to perfection. No footsteps to mark them. Raymond sat in his home office. The same room where he'd celebrated Forbes covers. Closed million-dollar deals. Built an empire. Now watching that empire's funeral on a 70-inch screen mounted to the wall. The naming ceremony played in stunning high definition. Every detail sharp. Painful. Undeniable. Elizabeth radiated joy. Not the performance of happiness. The genuine article. Her smile reached her eyes. Her laughter sounded free. Her hands held her babies with confidence. With love. With the ease of someone who'd finally found home. Samuel stood beside her. Protective without being possessive. Present without demanding attention. The kind of husband Raymond had promised to be once. In that one-room Surrealer apartment. When Elizabeth had been his partner. His team. His everything. Prime Minister Anderson moved through the ceremony like the patriarch he was. Powerful but gentle. Commanding but warm. His hand on Elizabeth's shoulder carried weight. Message. Protection. Anyone watching understood immediately. This woman was family. Untouchable. Valued beyond measure. The twins. God, the twins. Raymond stared at them through the screen. Healthy. Perfect. Beautiful. 2 lives that proved every lie he'd told. Every accusation he'd made. Every cruel word he'd used to justify his betrayal. She wasn't barren. Never had been. Her body wasn't broken. Only his character had been defective. The ceremony camera panned across the audience. Dignitaries, diplomats, foreign ambassadors, women's rights leaders, NGO directors, the powerful and the purposeful, all celebrating Elizabeth, all witnessing her triumph, all testifying that cruelty had failed and dignity had won. Raymond's phone sat silent on the desk beside him. Once it never stopped ringing. Deals, opportunities, invitations. Now nothing. The silence louder than any sound. More devastating than any accusation. His company had officially declared bankruptcy 3 days ago. Raytech Solutions, the tech platform that revolutionized Nigerian business. The empire he'd built from nothing, reduced to nothing again. Liquidation proceedings started. Assets being sold. Employees scattered to competitors. His name now a warning rather than a brand. The FCC investigation had uncovered exactly what they'd been looking for. Offshore accounts, tax irregularities, contract violations that existed in gray areas when you had friends in government. But when those friends disappeared, when protection evaporated, those gray areas became black and white evidence of fraud. His lawyers prepared for trial. Possible prison time. 3 to 7 years depending on charges. The billionaire tech mogul potentially becoming inmate 447892. Orange jumpsuit replacing Armani suits. Concrete cell replacing marble mansion. Cynthia's divorce had been finalized with brutal efficiency. She'd taken half. Actually taken more than half. Her lawyers better prepared. Her evidence more damaging. Those offshore accounts she'd revealed. The hidden properties. The financial manipulations. All used against him in divorce court. The judge hadn't been sympathetic. Not after the viral video. Not after watching Raymond Thompson splash mud on a pregnant woman, then call her worthless. The court of public opinion had influenced the court of law. Justice served with interest. His parents hadn't spoken to him since that final phone call. His mother's shame. His father's disappointment. Both too heavy to carry while maintaining contact. They'd sent a message through his lawyer. Brief. Final. We don't recognize the man you've become. May God have mercy on your soul. Even his business partners, the ones who'd survived by publicly denouncing him, wanted nothing to do with Raymond Thompson. His name had become toxic. Association meant contamination. Better to pretend they'd never been friends. Never shared drinks. Never celebrated deals together. Raymond was alone in ways money couldn't fix. In ways power couldn't reverse. In ways pride had created but humility couldn't undo. On screen, Elizabeth approached the microphone for her speech. Raymond leaned forward. Despite everything. Despite knowing it would hurt. He needed to hear her words. Needed to understand who she'd become in his absence. Her voice filled his empty office. Soft but powerful. Gentle but unbreakable. My children, you are not revenge. Raymond listened to every word. Felt each one land like a stone in his chest. Building weight. Building pressure. Building something that felt like grief. Like regret. Like consequences finally arriving after years of running. She spoke about worth not being tied to productivity. About dignity being unshakable. About queens waiting for kingdoms worthy of their reign. And Raymond realized with devastating clarity. He'd been given a kingdom. Elizabeth had been his kingdom. Her loyalty. Her partnership. Her love. Her belief in him when he was nothing. When they were nothing together, but everything to each other. He'd thrown away a kingdom for an empire. And the empire had crumbled while the kingdom flourished elsewhere. The ceremony ended with celebration. Music. Dancing. Joy. Elizabeth surrounded by people who genuinely loved her, protected her, valued her for who she was rather than what she could provide. The broadcast concluded. Cut to news anchors discussing the event. Praising Elizabeth's grace. Condemning Raymond's cruelty. Analyzing the fall of Raytech Solutions as a morality tale. As proof that character matters. that consequences exist, that you reap what you sow. Raymond turned off the television, sat in sudden silence. The kind that forced you to hear your own thoughts, your own heartbeat, your own carefully constructed justifications crumbling. He stood slowly, walked through his mansion, really looked at it for the first time in months. The excess, the waste, the beautiful emptiness of rooms designed to impress rather than comfort, to showcase rather than shelter. He ended up in what had been Cynthia's closet, now empty except for a few forgotten items. In the back, pushed behind shoe racks, he found an old box. His box. From before. From Surreal. From when he was nobody building something. Raymond opened it, hands trembling. Photos. Old photos. Printed on cheap paper. Him and Elizabeth in their one-room apartment. Both smiling. Really smiling. Not the performative smiles for social media. Genuine joy. Genuine partnership. Genuine love. Elizabeth helping him code. Both hunched over a laptop balanced on their knees. Her hand on his shoulder. His head leaning against hers. Team. Equals. Together. Elizabeth after working a double shift. Exhausted, but still encouraging him. Still believing in his dream. Their dream. Investing her time, her energy, her faith in a future they were building brick by brick. More photos. Their cheap date nights. Street food eaten while sitting on a curb. Laughing about something. The memory lost, but the happiness preserved. Affordable joy. Real joy. The kind money couldn't buy because it came from connection rather than consumption. Raymond's hands shook.
Tears fell.
Splashed on the old photographs. Blurring ink. Blurring the past. Blurring the moment when he'd had everything and convinced himself he had nothing. He pulled out his phone. Current phone. Expensive. Latest model. Opened his photo gallery. Scrolled through. Pictures with Cynthia. All posed. All perfect. All empty. Performance. Transaction. Two people using each other. Calling it marriage. Calling it love. The contrast was devastating. He whispered to the empty closet. To the photographs. To the ghost of who he used to be. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate. Insufficient. Too small for damage too large. But they were all he had. 2 words he should have said years ago. Months ago. The day he filed for divorce. The moment he started changing. The second he began confusing his worth with his wealth. I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
God, I'm so sorry.
But apologies don't rebuild empires. Don't restore reputations. Don't undo cruelty. Don't resurrect relationships murdered by pride and resurrected nowhere except in regret. Elizabeth wasn't thinking about Raymond anymore. Wasn't wasting emotional energy on someone who'd proven himself unworthy of her thoughts. She was too busy living. Too busy loving. Too busy teaching her children that true power wasn't found in wealth or status or the ability to humiliate others. True power was found in unshakable dignity. The kind no amount of mud could ever wash away. Raymond sat on the closet floor, surrounded by empty shoe racks and old photographs and the consequences of his choices. The mansion silent around him. The empire gone. The relationships destroyed. The reputation ruined. The future uncertain and probably painful. He'd attacked a queen at a bus stop. Called her worthless. Covered her in mud. Expected victory. Expected to feel powerful. Expected to remind her that he'd won and she'd lost. Instead, he'd lost everything. And she'd gained a kingdom. Because queens don't lose crowns when cruel men try to strip them away. They simply wait. Patient. Dignified. Unbreakable. They wait for kingdoms worthy of their reign. And when those kingdoms come, they come with the force of divine justice. Raymond Thompson finally understood. Too late. Always too late. But he understood. The woman he'd thrown away like garbage had always been a queen. He'd just lacked the wisdom to recognize royalty when it stood before him. Lacked the character to honor it. Lacked the humility to deserve it. Now she stood beside a prime minister. Held twins that proved his lies. Glowed with genuine happiness. testified to dignity's triumph, reclaimed every crown he'd tried to steal. And Raymond? Raymond sat alone on a closet floor, holding old photographs, whispering apologies to emptiness, learning the hardest lesson existence offers. Some mistakes can't be fixed. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Some queens, once lost, are gone forever. And all the money in the world, or all the bankruptcy in the world, can't change that truth. Justice had come. Not quick, not loud, but absolutely inevitable. And it left nothing standing except the truth. Dignity wins. Cruelty fails. Queens reclaim their crowns. Always.